So we're on unit 6 today. For this, we're continuing to do loops. This week we're going to look at a special type of loop called a for loop, and how to set that up for this. So it'll work very similar to other stuff. We will be looking also at the while and the for while loops a little bit here, an activity on Wednesday, so we can see all three loops kind of side by side here. So let's just go in the learning activity and go through this. I would say I use for loops more than the other types of loops. I would say I use for loops, yeah, maybe 75% of the time, and while and do while loops, not, 25% of the time here. Even though they're more restricted, that you can't do everything with a for loop that you can with the other loops. Let's look at some of these loops and what they are. If you're in CIS Principles or remember App Inventor, there is actually a for loop block there where you say for each number from 1 to 5, count by ones, and it'll loop through that block. And that's very similar to our for loops here we'll be doing. What we write is we'll write a loop, we'll say for, and then we'll have this thing in parentheses. We'll have an initialization, a semicolon, a test condition, a semicolon, and a change or increment value, and then a parenthesis, and then we have our braces, and then our loop body inside that here. So, and this is similar to a while loop that we looked at last week. So like last week, we talked about a little bit about counter control loops. When we want to do something, you would have a counter. So you can say int x equals 3 here. And then you say, while x is greater than 0, and inside the loop, you print x out. And you say x equals x minus 1 here. So it would print out 3, 2, 1. And then x equals x minus 1. X would be 0. This would no longer be true. So then you just end at 1. So it should print out 3, 2, 1. For this. And you can do the same thing as a for loop. And so a for loop, again, the initialization block here, you would put in your int x equals 3 in there. The test condition is like in your while loop, your Boolean condition is stuck in there. And your increment there you put in here as your change or your increment or decrement value here. It's basically just a shortcut for a loop like this, for this, like a while loop here for this. So again, this walks through another video that walks you through this conversion in this CS Awesome. And here's the kind of the flow condition we'll hit. We do the initialization once at the start. We check our condition. If our condition is true, we do the loop body, and then we do the change. And we loop back up and check the condition again. If it's true, we do the loop body, and then we do the change, and we loop. And we keep doing that until the condition is false, and we go on to the next statement. So again, this is why it's kind of called a loop, because we just loop through this loop body and change and check the condition, loop body, change, check condition again and again until it's false for this. So we'll be looking at lots of loops. I'm just going to open up a little sandbox over here to paste in some of this code. I couldn't actually run it right there, but I'm going to run it over here because we'll be doing different ones here. So a good thing to do is like be able to write a loop and predict what it is. This first one, I'm just going to run it and have it print out there, and then we'll talk about it. So it's printing out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here. So we say for int count equals 1. So count this is just done at the beginning. Count is initialized as 1. And then kind of while count is less than or equal to 5. So we keep looping while count is less than or equal to 5. And each time when we're done with the loop, we add 1 to count. Count equals plus plus. Now you can write this different ways. You can write this count equals count plus 1. You can write the increment any way you want. It's just this statement is done again and again for this. And then we're just printing off count here. So again, count starts to be 1. We print off that. Maybe I'm going to change this. I'm going to write count is now, and then print out count. So now when I run this, it'll say count is now 1. So again, count is 1. It'll print out count is now 1. And then after this, what I always think of is when we hit the end of the loop, the bottom brace, that keys us in to do this. So we hit the bottom of the loop, that keys us in to do the increment here. Count equals count plus 1. So count was 1, it's now 2. Now when we get up here, when we get up to the for loop, we have to check our condition again to see if we go into the loop. So is 2 less than or equal to 5? That's true. So we keep going through our loop. We print count is now 2. We get down here. That means end of our loop. We do our increment. Count 2 plus 1 is 3. So count is now 3. We loop back up. We do our check again. Is 3 less than or equal to 5? Yes. Then we go into our loop. We print out count. Count is now. So now we're down here. Count is now 3. We get to the end of our loop. Count equals count plus 1. So it's 4. 4 is still less than or equal to 5. We're printing this out. Print out count is now 4. Now it's getting towards the end. I have to be careful here. So now I add 1. 4, count becomes 5. So count is now 5. 5 is still less than or equal to 5 because I have that less than or equal. So count is still less than or equal to 5. That's still true. So I'll print out count is now 5. And then I'll add 1 to count. Count will be 6. I'll loop back up. I'll check this condition. Is 6 less than or equal to 5? That's false. So I will no longer do the loop. I'll drop out of the loop and stop that. So after I do this, I'll stop the loop for this. Is this making sense? These for loops, we'll be doing these a lot here with this. So we'll be setting this increment stuff. Let's look at these some more. There's a nice little activity here where you can take a while loop and rewrite it as a for loop here. So again, it's a while loop. They want you to rewrite it as a for. So again, if we were to run this here, it's going to print out 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Because we're starting with count equals 5, and while count is less than 10, we're printing it out at 1 per count. Now, if I want to convert this to a for loop, I'd say for something like this. And so what do I stick in here? This is my initialization. So again, I would take this out and put it up here. This is my check. So I would take that out and put that up here. This is my increment or my change. I'd put that up here. And then this, so I've taken that out of there. Then this is just my main loop. I would take that out and put it in here. So all the parts of a while loop are just moved up here into the for loop. And now I can run this and I'll do the same thing. Hopefully. Yeah. So again, it's just a special version of a counter control loop. Yeah, Jess? No. I was all excited. Someone asked me a question, but no. So, okay. When would you use these? We'll use these a lot when we're like looping through sets of or arrays, or lists of elements there. For example, you might loop through them and to look at each character in a word. You might look at each word in a sentence there. You might have a bunch of customers, and you might want to loop through each customer in a list. So anything that's organized in lists or what we call arrays or things like that, we'll use this sort of for loop to often loop through those elements. And a lot of our data will be organized into those sorts of lists and elements. A lot of times we'll want to do something for every element in this list, or for every word in this sentence, or every character in this string, every day in the month, or something like that. So, okay, let's do. I'm going to go and do this Think Java thing with this. Here's another for loop example here. So I'm just going to take that and run it so we can see what that does here. Let's clean it up a little bit and run that. So for int I equals 2, I less than or equal to 8, I plus equals 2. So this is just like saying I equals I plus 2 here. And then we're printing out I plus comma. And so this is not a print line, it's a print. So it'll print off 2 and a comma and then a 4. And so it prints out 2, 4, 6, 8. Who do we appreciate? Because when we're done with the loop, it prints that out. So I suggest you try some of these loops and try to modify them and see what they do in different ways. So if I change this and make this like 20, what does it do? What do you think it's going to do, and does it do that? So I run this, it'll say 2, 4, 6, 8, all the way up to 20. Who do we appreciate? So this is the max here that I can change. I'm going to change it back. What about this I equals I plus 2? Why do I have a 2 there? Why don't I just say I equals I plus 1 or I plus plus or something like that? Or I equals I plus 1, any of those. What does that do? So that would say 2, 3, 4. That would count by ones instead of twos here. So I want to count by 2, so I'm going to go back to this. And they actually shortcutted that a little. They did this. Rather than writing that, we have a shortcut. We can say just I plus equals 2. All right. What about this? What if we start this at 5? What does it do? So he'll say 5, 7. So this is where it starts at the lower end. If I start at 3, it'll stay 3, 5, 7. Who do we appreciate? That doesn't have quite the same ring to it. So now for this. Okay. So we said, now one thing we'll notice, and we'll be doing this on the assignment, is that you can stick a print, not a print line, but a print inside a loop and print out things inside a loop, a bunch of items. For example, let's say I wanted to print out 10, let's say I want to do this 10 times. I'm going to go for I equals 1, I less than or equal to 10. I'm just going to say I plus plus. So normally it's to print off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10. What if I just had it print out, instead of like the number, a star? Then it prints out 10 stars in a row. So I'll just warn you, we're going to want to use something like that later on when we get to the learning activity here. We want to print out like this block. We want to print out 5 stars. We want to print out 5 stars 5 times to make a square. We want to print out a triangle. We want to do these different things here. So we want just the start of that will be one of these loops like this with a print statement in it, not a print line. Because again, if this was a print line, what is it going to print if it's a print line? It'll print off the stars 1 per line here. So, but if it's just a print, it'll print them all on the same line. Okay, let's go back to our, so that's our example. They talk about the initializer here, the condition, and the update or increment or change, whatever you want to call that part. So, and then they have a little diagram of this. Oh, they talk about the difference between a for loop and a while loop here. One difference is with this n. So let's look at this one, our increment, and let's talk a little bit about scope. So here I'm saying if n, int n, I'm going to print this out. Oh, I'm going to print this out inside the loop, and I'll be fine. I say int n equals 3, n is greater than or equal to 0, n minus minus. So we're starting at 3 and we're counting down, 3, 2, 1, 0 here. But the problem here, let me go back, is that n is defined inside our loop. It isn't available outside my loop. So if I try to run it now, it'll give me an error. Uncompilable code, cannot find symbol, variable n. So here, n, it doesn't know where n is. I go, well, it's defined right up here. Well, variables only live in their braces, in their little, what we call their scope here. So in a for loop, this is the only place where n lives. If we declare it inside the loop is there. So it basically just lives there for this. It doesn't live outside that loop. And here we're trying to use it outside the loop. So sometimes if we want to do this, we'll have to tell the computer we're going to use an int n. So we move the int n out here, and then we initialize it here. So often we will we'll declare it int n, the right type, and set it up, and initialize it in the same time. Like here we said int n equals 3. But we can separate those. We can say int n, get it all declared and the scope set up, and then we can initialize it in our for loop. So sometimes we'll have to do that, especially if we want to print out the n after the loop. So what is n after this loop here? So I think it should be 0. It'll say n is now 0 when we're done with this loop. So you'll have to try, make sure you do enough loops here so you can start seeing loops. So if you look at a loop like this, n equals 1, n greater than 0, n minus minus, you should be able to picture that. So if I change this to 10, you should know what it's going to do. It'll count down from 10 to 1. This loop will print it out there. And then when we're done with the loop, n will be 0 here afterwards. We'll talk a little bit about nested for loops here. Let's see. For this, and so we can put a loop inside a loop here. So well, let's just do this loop and see if we can see what this does. I'm actually going to comment out this outside loop for now and just look at the inside loop. For int y equals 1, y is less than 10, y equals y plus plus, and then print out. And I'm just going to put in a number here. I'm going to put in 2 times y. So what is it going to print out? It'll print out 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, print out all the multiples of 2 here. What if I put in this a 3? It'll print out 3, 6, all multiples of 3. from 1 to 10. So y will be 1, we'll print out 1 times 3, which is 3. Y will then be 2, we'll print out 2 times 3, which is 6. Y will then be 3, 3 times 3 is 9. So whatever value I have here, it'll print it out multiple times. So I could set up a variable in x equals, let's say I want to print out the multiples of 5. I could do that, right? I could say, set x equals 5 and print out, and so what would this print out? This should print out the multiples of 5, 5, 10, 15, 20, right? Because again, I'm ignoring this loop up here. I just set x equal to 5 and do this. Well, what if I wanted to print out all the multiples of 2 and 3 and 4 and 5, and I want to do this. So I want to do x equal 5 and run it. I want to do x equals 6 and run it. So rather than doing this, I want to do it in a loop here. And that's what this does. We are going to put a loop around our other loop. So here's our loop that prints out one line, and then we're going to put another loop around that. I'm going to go from 2 to 6 here and run this. So it'll print out multiples of 2, multiples of 3, multiples of 4, 5, and 6. So it'll run this loop with x equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for this. Now, a lot of people write loops will use short variables for them, like x and y or I and j. I was taught to, in fact, some old programming languages only let you use certain variables like I and j or x and y for inside loops or loop counters. But today you can use any sort of variable here. I suggest using better names when possible here. So like this to me is the multiplication line here would be x. So maybe rather than saying x, I could think of x as this direction and y is this direction maybe a little bit. I don't know. It's not clear to me why you'd use x here. So maybe I would change that. Now I have to change it in 4 spots. So I'm just going to click on it and say refactor rename and call it maybe line number, something like that. So my line number goes from 2 to 6, 2 to 6 here, and then this is maybe each thing I'm doing, maybe my product, my multiplication, or something like that. So maybe I would change that. To print here. So now I'm taking my line number by the product. Sometimes this makes sense, sometimes it doesn't. I actually don't think this renaming helps that much, but again, we'll look at places where using the right names can be important. There'll also be times where using just, like I say, using just X and Y and stuff like that might be fine too. So. I'm going to wait. So again, later on in future classes, we'll start talking about characters and how to get each character in a word to print out here. But we're not going to do that yet today. Let me just look. I wanted it. There's something here. Oh, so like here. Sometimes so why you use a for loop when you can always use a while loop here? I think it just makes it a little simpler. Here's code for a while loop to print out, calculate the interest based on a loan or some principal in the bank or some principal loan you have here. It looks like this is a loan because we're adding the principal interest to the principal each time, or maybe it could be an investment. I guess so too. This is the while loop. I think you know, it gets kind of confusing. I think the for loop just clears it up and gets it all in one spot here. So you just say, so here we would just copy that out and we could put that over here. We have to set the interest and stuff ahead of time here. So I'm going to say, oops. Double principal. Let's say we had $10,000 and our interest rate is 7%. I can spell things and use the right principle. Oh, here I want, I also need the rate. There. Okay. And I can print this out. So I think sometimes a for loop is just a little cleaner to see than a while loop here. Okay, I think you're probably getting tired of me talking. Let's try to do this activity here. We're gonna break you into teams, into pairs and have you work on this. I think we will spread you. I think last time we put you in pairs nearby you. Today, I think we'll just spread you out by pairs. Maybe we'll do colors here to help with that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay.
I should about to go, but I did the homework.
Okay.
Yeah, so I got it on. I just still price fine.
Right.
I can just like where
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah, just to let you know.
Okay. Yeah. Right. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's fine. So. Okay. Let's do this. Yeah. This pair programming activity. Here. With while loops and for loops. For this. So I'm going to break you into parts and stuff and have you do that. So here. Pick color, any color. Color, any color. Okay. Okay. So why don't you find your partner and work on this together there. So find your partner and work on this together. We want to do these loops and stuff. So find your partner, move you over to one place or the other. Try it out. So online students or remote students, you can do this on your own. Again, you don't need to turn this in. It's just a learning activity, a practice activity. So you can certainly, it might be something you want to keep. Again, we're 2 weeks away from the midterm exam. So like these sorts of loops are a common question on the midterm exam. So it might be a document you want to just keep when you're kind of reviewing for the exam. One of the reasons. So again, one partner should run NetBeans, and we'll alternate who codes every 5 minutes here. for this, and we'll post the code in here. So I'll set a timer and we'll try this out. So. So just, yeah, find this document, create it, make a copy of it, put your names on it, share it with the other person, and just start going through. You want to write these things with a for loop, a while loop, and a do while loop, and see if you can do things with all three loops.
Where is this document?
So this will be here under the the unit 6 learning material, pair programming activity. Here. Right there.
Yeah. Thank you.
Just a quick correction. So hopefully you're going through this and you're putting in some code, as you figure things out in here. After you do it with the counter, it'll ask you what happens if you enter 1 or 0. So again, in that section, you don't have to do the code. You just have to write the results here. And they might be different for the 3 types of loops. So that's something to watch. So the next one is different ways to write the increment num equals num plus 1. That's the same for our loops. So you just have to do it for one loop. In fact, I should have just for that in different ways, just had a single box there. So you just have to do one box for that. And then just write all the different ways you can write num equals num plus 1 or add 1 to num. So you don't have to turn this in. I suggest you share it with the other people, another person in your group from on its good review. So we might have some more time on Wednesday to do this, but I'm not sure. We'll be doing the discussion learning activity on Wednesday. So see you on Wednesday.
So you're going to see next week.
Yeah, I'm going, yeah.
No,
Wednesday,
Wednesday,
right, yes.
All right.
See ya.